This is my take from podcast. If you want to listen summary of podcast, start with a free trial for detailed summaries on Apple Podcast and Spotify using link in descriptions and support with tips on Patreon. Here is key point discussed in podcast why life feels so pointless and what to do. Angelo Somers. When we're trying to achieve more, to be better than everyone else, it's easy to get caught up in this mindset of trying for 20 where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others and pushing to do more. But here's the thing, this approach can be both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it can drive us to achieve incredible things, like building a podcast with 1 billion plays. Think about it, when we're trying to one-up everyone else, we're not really affirming our own values or desires. We're just reacting to the environment, often out of fear or a sense of lack. And this can lead to a weird kind of complacency, where we're not really happy with what we're achieving, but we're just doing it because we feel like we have to. And this can lead to a kind of status game where we're just trying to keep up appearances, rather than actually pursuing what truly matters to us. But here's the thing, self-belief is a crucial part of this equation. If we don't believe in ourselves, we'll never take the leap and try to achieve our goals. And yet, self-belief can also be a double-edged sword. If we're driven by fear or a negative mindset, our self-belief can actually hold us back. And that's a recipe for a disaster. It's about creating our own values and pursuing what truly matters to us, rather than just trying to keep up with the Joneses. And that's a much harder, but ultimately more rewarding, path to take. And then there's this idea that our sense of self is not fixed. It's constantly changing. It's like we're simulating a different reality, rather than actually engaging with the present moment. This is also tied to how we give and receive advice. We often listen to advice and imagine what it would be like to follow it, but that's not the same as actually taking action. We need to allocate our resources wisely, and not mistake talking about something for actually doing it. This is especially true when it comes to emotions like anger and frustration. Venting can be a pressure release valve, but it can also prevent us from taking action. We've equated unpleasant experiences with harm, and we're living in a hedonistic culture where pleasure and pain are paramount. But what if we're missing the point? What if the key to true fulfillment is not avoiding pain, but embracing it as a necessary part of growth? When we're seeking advice, especially online, we often fall into this trap of mistaking certainty for expertise. We assume that if someone is super confident and ardent about their perspective, they must know what they're talking about. But the truth is, fluency is not a proxy for truthfulness, and certainty is not a proxy for expertise. In fact, some of the most successful people, who have reached a point where they can give advice, are often out of touch with the people consuming their content. They're outliers by design, and what worked for them might not work for you. Think about it. When you're looking for advice, you're often at a different stage in your journey than the person giving the advice. So, instead of modeling their current behavior, you should be looking at what they did when they were at your stage. That's where the real applicable advice lies. And then there's this idea of intellectual avoidance versus true introspection. Sometimes, we use learning as a way to avoid actually doing something or engaging with the discomfort of not having done something. It's like we're so focused on consuming information that we forget to take action. This is where the line between intellectual curiosity and avoidance gets blurred. We can get so caught up in reading about productivity, self-improvement, and all that jazz, that we forget to actually apply it to our lives. It's like we're using learning as a prophylactic against taking real action. And let's not forget about the role of character in all of this. We assume that if we're not smart enough, we'll never make it. But the truth is, there are plenty of super smart people who do nothing. It's character that correlates with success, not intelligence. So instead of optimizing for intelligence, we should be optimizing for character. Our guest, who we'll call the young Charlie, had a pretty unconventional upbringing. He dropped out of school at a young age and embarked on a journey of self-directed learning. But, as he navigated this new path, he found himself struggling with existential questions and eventually fell into a downward spiral of nihilism and hedonism. It's a fascinating story, and what's striking is how he describes his obsession with pleasure and pain as a single slider. The further down he was, the more painful it was, and the further up, the more pleasurable. It's like he was running away from pain, but also running towards pleasure. This dichotomy is really interesting, and it makes me think about how we often approach value judgments. Anyway, the young Charlie's story is a powerful reminder that taking risks and facing our fears is essential to growth. Even though his journey was marked by struggles, he learned some of the most important lessons about himself and his psychology. And as he puts it, addiction is the crucible of bullshit. It reveals the ways in which we're capable of bullshitting ourselves. You know, it's wild how our experiences, especially the tough ones, can shape our sense of self and influence the narratives we tell ourselves. But the truth is, so many people are dealing with similar feelings of inadequacy and disconnection. But what's fascinating is that, when we hear others share their similar experiences, it can be a huge source of comfort. It's like, oh, I'm not alone in this. And that realization can be incredibly powerful. Now, when it comes to authenticity, it's interesting to explore how we define our true selves. It's that sense of, this feels right, this feels like me. And it's not always easy to tap into that, especially when we're trying to live up to certain expectations or personas. The concept of pullbacks is also really important to acknowledge. You know, when we're working towards a goal, and we experience setbacks, it can be devastating. But what's key is recognizing that those pullbacks are a natural part of the journey. It's not about being perfect, it's about being resilient. And let's talk about the pain of feeling like we're not living up to our potential. That sense of, I'm supposed to be doing more. Achieving more. It's a unique kind of discomfort, and it's often socially loaded. We feel like we need to meet certain expectations, not just our own, but those of others. It's a heavy burden to carry. We set these lofty goals, and when we don't meet them, we feel like we failed. But what's important to remember is that success is not just about achieving our goals, it's about being at peace with ourselves, with our progress, and with our imperfections. And that's something we need to practice, to make a conscious effort to celebrate our successes, no matter how small they may seem. If you can't have fun now, when will you? That's when it hit me, we often use the wrong fuel to drive us. And then there's this idea that we're always chasing something. But what if what we're really after is the desire itself, not the desired outcome? It's like Nietzsche said, ultimately, it is the desire, not the desired, that we truly love. That changes everything, doesn't it? It means that we can always find something new to strive for, something that pushes us to grow and learn. We see everyone else's highlight reel, but we're stuck with our own behind-the-scenes footage. It's like we're comparing our own messy, imperfect lives to everyone else's curated social media feeds. And that's just not fair to ourselves. We need to acknowledge that everyone has their own struggles, even if they don't show it on the outside. We often try to find quick fixes or solutions to our problems, but what if the real issue is deeper than that? What if it's not just about getting more confident or attractive, but about addressing the underlying fears and insecurities that drive us? It's like, we need to stop trying to put band-aids on our problems and start doing the real work of self-reflection and growth. That's where the real magic happens. But the truth is, it's often the tiny, incremental improvements that add up to make a significant difference in our lives. On the flip side, being one worse every day for over a year can bring you close to zero. It's crazy to think about how our habits can either work for us or against us in such profound ways. James Clear calls this the valley of disappointment, where it feels like no matter how hard you're working, you're just not seeing the progress you want. But here's the thing, success isn't always linear. It's not always about seeing immediate results. Sometimes it's about putting in the work and trusting that it'll pay off in the long run. Like, going to the gym might make you feel great, but if you're not addressing the underlying issues that are driving your behavior, you're just putting a band-aid on a deeper problem. It's like you can't just focus on the surface-level stuff and expect to see real change. You've got to be willing to dig deeper and do the hard work of self-reflection and growth. It's about finding meaning and purpose in our daily lives. And that's where the concept of ordinary Tuesdays comes in. Because let's be real, most of our lives are made up of ordinary moments, not extraordinary ones. It's about finding joy and fulfillment in the everyday, rather than just chasing after some mythical idea of success. We can't always fit our experiences into neat little boxes or categories. And that's okay. It's okay to not have all the answers, to not have a clear plan. Sometimes it's just about embracing the uncertainty and finding ways to navigate it. We're all just trying to find our way in this crazy, fast-moving world. And that's okay. It's okay to not have it all together, to not have all the answers. Sometimes it's just about taking things one step at a time and trusting that we'll get there eventually.